Witness Dave Batista bomb his way through an army of deadly assassins because he walks alone inside this pit of danger. A place where no one will ever be. He walks alone in the Killer's Game, provided that any Saliva fans are not immediately wanting to sue me over that. The Killer's Game. Oh, it's the Killer's Game. Batista and Sophia Boutella are a couple, yes, oh no, but we see a bunch of violence in the Killer's Game. Okay, I'm done singing. I'm not done singing, but I'm done singing for right now. Wait, okay, sorry. No, in all seriousness, the Killer's Game does star Dave Batista. Sophia Boutella, who was in the Rebel Moon movies that Zack Snyder did. She also was the lady with the blade legs in Kingsman. She is an incredibly gorgeous, gifted, incredibly attractive woman. She actually is a pretty good actress, but Jesus goddamn Christ. I'm going to say right now, before I talk about the rest of the cast and get into the plot, there is a dance number early on in this movie where I'm like, I would have folded right there in the theater. No, she's beautiful. She's great, though. She has a commanding presence. So, this was directed by J.J. Perry, not to be confused with C.J. Perry, because J.J., I think, can form a coherent thought. J.J. Perry basically has done stunt work, but also he did Day Shift. Remember Day Shift? Remember that movie with Jamie Foxx on Netflix that precisely nobody fucking liked because it was really, really bad? It wasted a potentially good premise? Yeah, that. So that didn't exactly inspire much hope in me. But maybe I like this better than Day Shift. You'll have to find out. So, it was based on a novel by Jay Bonasinga. Okay. I mean, I don't really know if it's a good novel or not. If it is, if you've read it, let me know. 3 other people wrote this. 3 people. It took 3 people to write this movie, and by Christ, could you goddamn tell with how busy it got at some points and how messy it was and how the writing wasn't all that good. And okay, tipping my hand, but you know what? There were some good moments here. But you have James Coyne, I guess is how you say it. He did Puncture Wounds, is a movie I totally forgot existed. And then Rand Ravik, who did The Astronaut's Wife. Dear God in heaven, I forgot about that movie. I wish everybody forgot about The Astronaut's Wife. I wish The Astronaut's Wife forgot about The Astronaut's Wife. But Simon Kinberg actually is probably the most famous writer of the 3. He did the 355, X-Men Dark Phoenix, He also did Jumper. That was acceptable, I guess. He also did Sherlock Holmes. He did other X-Men movies. I believe he did Fan Four Stick as well. So yeah, not exactly a world-beating amount of talent for the writing staff, but Sophia Boutella, Dave Batista, and Palm Kay, as I'm going to call her, the one who played Mantis, I believe, in Guardians of the Galaxy. She plays Mariana. She is beautiful and actually does have a commanding presence as well and seems to be relishing her role. So Scott Adkins is also in this. Daniel Bernhardt is in this, and that name may not actually ring a bell to you. But for those that are MST3K fans, Future War. Yeah, the main guy in that. He's actually had a pretty prolific career. He was in a couple of the Matrix sequels, I believe. Yes, after all, he is only human. Him. 6 years after he was in Future War. I think Future War was actually done a few years before, but I digress. Daniel Bernhardt is in this. And you know what? He actually gets to say a few things. And he actually gets to have a decent role. So good for him. It only took 27 years for him to be in stuff that was released theatrically where he got to actually do some stuff. But you know what? Good for him, in all honesty. So, Lucy, who, my God, she was in The Union. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Ben Kingsley is in this. Ben Kingsley has looked 80 years old for the last 40. It's a miracle. Apparently, he is 80 years old. Terry Crews is in. I like Terry Crews. America's Got Talent. Drew McIntyre, WWE wrestler. I say superstar, but the bad man is no longer in charge. Now just the man with the bad ticker is in charge. But nevertheless, Drew McIntyre. And Antonia Desplat, who is also, and she gorgeous as well. There are a lot of beautiful women in this, I do want to say. And basically, we have the plot as far as it is. Dave Batista plays Joe Flood. I do also want to quickly shout the fact that Dave Batista may be the best wrestler turned actor. Yes, The Rock has been in a lot of big budget movies, but let's be perfectly honest. stripped down a lot of, those down to a few roles where he's actually tried. He's mostly just playing Dwayne Johnson. John Cena has made some interesting choices. He's willing to make fun of himself. I would argue Dave Bautista, even Knock at the Cabin, which I hated. I absolutely goddamn hated Knock at the Cabin. But I appreciated what he did, and actually there was some decent acting. I just hated it because M. Night Shyamalan with Ding Dong doesn't know how to make a good movie anymore. See Trap. Actually, don't see Trap. Don't watch that. Please, for the love of God. Dave Bautista, though. Tremendous actor. I still need to see the My Spy movies to see how he does. Kind of being, the big fish out of water guy. But he really actually is very, very good. He was in one of the Bond movies, and it's nice to see that after his wrestling career, full-time wrestling career ended, he came back as Batista and wasn't a heel at first, and it didn't work and all this stuff. And then he was Blue Tista, and people made fun of him. I felt bad that I made fun of Batista's last full-time run, or part-time run, I guess. But you know what? Batista seems like an overall good guy, and he does a lot of good shit for a lot of animal causes, and he's great about staying up for other proper causes and everything. And he came back and went out on his own terms. And people have been shaming him because he lost muscle mass. He's in his mid-50s. He didn't need to be 300-something pounds. He's 6'5", still a beast. And he could still be a trim 250 to 255 and still be a world beater. And I imagine that he probably dropped some muscle mass for this. But he still looked impressive because he's in his goddamn mid-50s. So nevertheless, Dave Bautista plays Joe Flood, and he is a really, really great contracted killer. Takes out people in the opening scene, has some dizzy spells, has some weird stuff, gets a brain scan, and while waiting for that, during this this opening sequence, he sees Sofia Boutella's maze, and he's amazed by her, and God, who could not be amazed by her? I'm sorry, but whew. Would have folded like a sheet. So her and him head off because he goes to return her phone after he fights his way out of there, saves her after she got trampled because he sees, holy crap, she's beautiful. And yeah, you can't blame him. He returns her phone, finds out she's a dancer. They have a romance. And then he has a boss, Ben Kingsley, who respects him. And then basically he finds out he doesn't have very long to live, so he decides to take out a contract on himself. Batista, that is, not Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley will probably survive the next apocalypse and will be 120 years old and still look 80. But nevertheless, Dave Bautista says, okay, hello, Joe. I'm going to take myself out. And Palm K is more than happy to do it because it's something I'll talk about in the spoilers. And then various assassins show up, including a group that looked like they were like some kind of mixture of a Japanese boy and girl band, including a couple girls that were a couple Japanese schoolgirl outfitted Asians. It's like they filmed My Fantasies. And also there were a couple strippers because T-Pain had to be honored. And there were just various killers in this. It's a little bit assassin. It's a little bit, it's a little bit Bullet Train. It's a little bit ridiculous. It's a little bit John Wick attempt. And it's a little bit rock and roll. Rock and Batista roll, RR. And yeah, from there we basically have a comedic assassin movie that you have seen 1,000 times before. Now, I do want to shout the fact that Batista, when he is on screen, has a lot of fun. He carries this. I mean, I'm not saying that he's able to carry it to the finish line, but him and Sophia do have good chemistry. Palm K does her best. She's trying to sink her teeth in this role. Terry Crews, I'm really happy from a guy that was part of, what was it? Was it Battle Bowl? God, what was that? What was that damn thing? What was that American Gladiators knockoff that they did in the dying days of WCW? I reviewed the stuff, but I'm drawing a goddamn blank. From there to having all the roles that he has, willing to make fun of himself in White Chicks, America's Got Talent, and doing stuff like this, he's still going strong, and Terry Crews does seem like a pretty good guy. I actually know somebody that did meet him on a set and says he's a very, very nice and gracious guy. It was nice to see Drew McIntyre in this. There isn't really a lot to spoil in this. I'm just going to talk about the things I enjoyed. I enjoyed the action scenes. The blood splatters were ridiculous. It was gory, goopy, fun. The writing's dog shit, and when it slows down, it really just grinds to a goddamn halt. Now, there are plenty of moments where it just keeps on going, and Daniel Bernhardt, again, it was nice to see him in a meaty role, especially considering that he's got to be approaching 60 at this point. But nevertheless, it was fun enough. It's not great. The writing is shit. It does eventually run out of steam because you can only introduce so many assassins, so many characters with their own graphics and all that stuff before it gets a little bit ridiculous and then gets a little bit tiring and then just tries everybody's patience. But the Killer's Game, it's fun enough. It's acceptable. I don't know if it's going to necessarily do that well in theaters, but I could see it finding a life on streaming. But I'm happy for Batista. I hope he continues to get good roles and everything. He seems to be sinking his teeth into doing these roles and wanting to branch himself out as an actor. I don't know if he will necessarily ever win an Academy Award. It would be cool. He'd be the first wrestler to do it, to my knowledge, that I'm kind of, that I got in my head. But yeah, Ben Kingsley is, there's enough fun. There's no real element of danger. We all know everything's going to end up working out. But does it? Haha. You'll have to find out, actually. But it is what it is. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So yeah, basically, I'm just going to crumple these up, even though it doesn't, I'm not angry at the movie. There are missed opportunities, though. Batista really doesn't take, he takes hits, Hitista, as it were. He disrupts that, freaking deal where, it's like opera dance hall thing. They execute a contract. I don't know who the girl was that was his second, but holy fuck, she was beautiful. She didn't have much time, but then he fights his way up and he's having dizzy spells, all this stuff and everything. Talks to Ben Kingsley, does the stuff where he eventually gets a brain scan and finds out he's got this degenerative disorder where his body basically is going to shut down, and that's why he executes a contract on himself. And then Sophia Botella, he basically pushes her away, even though they have a whirlwind romance. And you have a woman like that, you don't let her go. But he, feels that he's going to die, doesn't want to do anything bad, puts the contract out on himself, wants her to be safe. She was going to tell him something, and then he pushes her away just before that. And she's upset, but he basically calls drunk and says, I have a brain disorder that's going to basically destroy me. Ben Kingsley would not be the person to carry out the contract because he respects him too much, so find somebody else. That's where Palm K's Mariana comes in, and she's got her seconds and stuff like that. She's got Daniel Bernhardt there. He's one of the mercenaries. He's recognizable for those of us that are MST3K fans and those of us that have paid attention to stuff, but I think the vast majority, there are a lot of people like, holy shit, that's the kind of career he's had. And he's had quite a few roles, and minor and decent, meaty roles, so good for him. But yeah, Palm K looks absolutely great. She's very, very attractive. And she, short blonde hair, she's just basically like, oh, you killed my dad. But her dad did something really, really bad. And she's kind of this wild, crazy assassin child. And then he at his fortress of solitude, it's like this apartment loft thing where he's got this safe door. And he's even got this laser activated thing where if anybody walks in and doesn't see the laser, bad things will happen. And I believe it's the Goyang gang. They killed a bunch of people at a karaoke bar, including the 2 Japanese schoolgirls, which, again, filming my fantasies, but I digress. Those 2 women, I wish I had actually given them a bit more of a chance because they seem to have a little bit of spunk. They were full of spunk. Ugh, I grossed myself out. But yeah, nobody really presents a threat. There's another guy. This reminds me of Bullet Train, except it didn't last as long as Bullet Train. It didn't annoy me as much as Bullet Train, even though Bullet Train had Joey King in it. It did have Bugs Bad Bunny in it. But this doesn't overstay its welcome. I mean, yeah, it tests my patience, but it's also maybe 95, 97 minutes. Bullet Train was a beefy amount of time. So nevertheless, there is a point where he killed, there's one of the girls that had like the yin yang like plates, and one guy gets one through his head. He knocks the teeth out of one of the girls. He had gourd busted, picked up and just gourd busted one of the guys through the goddamn wall. That just made me laugh as a wrestling fan. And And then other contracts, or other assassins are brought in because Palm K's like, no, 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 we're going to take care of this. So pretty much every assassin comes in, including these two strippers, which, Jesus Christ, the one who was on the stripper pole is like, oh, God, man, wow. I mean, I don't know who would be able to resist. Wish they'd done more with the assassin strippers. See, it had ideas, it just didn't have anything to sink its teeth into because it was too busy giving a bunch of people a bunch of stuff to do as far as writing and not really having the discernible talent to expand on any of this stuff. Sophia basically disappears for a vast majority of the movie, but he sends her a message, basically, I'm going to send you some money, go, I will find you, but please get out of there, it's not safe for you to be there. He eventually does explain down the road that he's an assassin, because he says he's just into retirement planning. And it's funny, though, he dumps all his guns and everything in the river, throws them in a bag, throws them in a river, has all this money that he has, execute the contract, still has money to send her, but he's such a lethal force, he's able to destroy people and just beat people up. There's this motorcycle stuff at one point. They introduced Drew McIntyre and another guy, and Drew McIntyre's this drunk Scotsman that's 6'5" and 260 and just a freaking Adonis. And one of my mutuals might be watching this. You stop that. You stop that right now. But it's nice that Drew McIntyre got to be in this. He also got to have a decent fight scene. He got impaled on some bull horns. You mess with the bull, you get the herns. Then Roosh came in and cut a promo that made no sense. But yeah, there's a fight in these various places. There's a fight in a castle. Terry Crews has to watch Palm K's, I believe, cousin or something like that, and mentor him to be, in the business. But that doesn't work because that guy makes no sense. It's like they took a character from Kneecap but didn't put any of the ingenuity into him. And Kneecap, by the way, is a movie to absolutely check out as soon as it hits a proper streaming service or when it comes down in price, but it is worth checking out. But all stuff's going on. There's this mariachi. There's this guy that kind of tried to be like Antonio Banderas, but I must. And all these characters are introduced, and basically there's this point where he gets Maze. Sorry, I don't know why the fuck I watched 2 movies a day, and I'm kind of tired. Actually, I've watched 3 movies. But nevertheless, Maze basically tells him while driving in the car, even though she ends up, revealing she got shot or finds out that she got shot, she reveals she's pregnant. That's the secret she was going to tell him. And then they're going to get happily married. Well, he has to take her from the car, and instead of driving, and they go to a church, and this priest, this Catholic priest basically ends up hearing all of his sins and everything. He's like, all this murder and everything is such a sin. It's such a sin. And then there's a shootout in the church. Daniel Bernhardt's there. Daniel Bernhardt gets blown away by Sophia Boutella. She could blow me away. But that's bad. She should be respected better than that. I apologize. But just, anyway, nevertheless, they are going to get married. Also, Ben Kingsley shows up and executes Palm K because she hired mercenaries instead of just using assassins. That broke the rules of this killer's game. Don't hate the player, hate the game was a line that Ben Kingsley said in the movie in 2024. Booker T said something like that in late era WCW. Yeah, that was certainly something. So they get married. At that same church, the pastor's fine, or the priest is fine because Batista paid for all the renovations and everything because it was a very old church. And yeah, then he talks to Ben Kingsley. And oh, by the way, a little bit earlier, his dizzy spells got cured when Ben Kingsley's wife, I forget her goddamn, Sandra, I think was the character's name, kind of popped his neck and everything, and it was just a kink in his neck. And suddenly he can see clearly now that the rain is gone. And then it ends. Also, Dave Bautista apparently helped executive produce this. You know what? It was fine. C+. It's not great. I went a little bit long on it because I wanted to talk about some good things. But yeah, C+. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ricklin. I'll see you soon.